Welcome back to the Dart course, and in this lecture I'm going to be showing you how to make decisions in Dart, right? So it's nothing but your if-else statements if you're hailing from another language, right? So go ahead and create a new Dart file and call this 10 underscore decision making. Right, after you're done with that, let's go ahead and create our main method. Right, so after you've got that ready, let's dive in. Okay, so this lesson you're going to be learning about this thing called if and if else. That's how you represent it. Right, so we'll start with if. Right, so we'll just get you a sample code out. Right, so that's how an if statement looks. Let me just remove that for now. Right, let's format that. Right, so this is how your if statement looks. So you start with if, then you've got a Boolean expression inside this, then you've got the parentheses, and if this is true, whatever you're checking, if that's true, this line will execute. I know all these are a little abstract, especially for those who haven't coded before. That's why I'm going to illustrate it with an example. Right? So now I'm just going to make a small security system in order to show you how it works. Alright, it's going to be a really basic system. Right, so it's just going to be like, if you're the user, it's going to say hi. Or if you're not the user, the system is intended to be used upon, it'll say don't use the system, right? And I know it's a dumb project, but then let's just stick with it, right? So let's go ahead and get, from now on, let me put up on a commandment that we're not going to be hard coding any value. What do I mean by that? As you see, I've hard-coded a value here. So hard-coded means if you're putting the value which is supposed to change, right? So instead of that, I'm going to change it to a type of input. So this thing is going to be accessed by the input value, right? So how I'm going to do that is, I'm not sure if you remember, it's stdin, din, but before that we've got to import something. Do you remember what we need to import? Alright, great if you got it, but if not, it's fine. Import, and then we go ahead and do dart, and then IO. So how I remember this is, IO stands for input output. So we're getting an input, so we've got to use the IO package, right? So let's go back there and go ahead and hit enter, then read the name, right? So after I've got my name variable, what I'm gonna do is write if brackets parentheses, right? So here what I need to do is place a Boolean expression. So as you remember, we've talked about Boolean expressions in video 3 of this section, where this is of type Boolean, if you remember. So let me give you a quick recap. A Boolean is nothing but a true or false value type, right? So it can just hold two values. It's true or false, nothing else. These have infinite possibilities, not really infinite, but huge number of possibilities, but then these only have two possibilities, true or false, right? So we're applying the same thing here, right? Just to keep it simple, let's just go ahead and put in true for now, right? And then I'm going to print we are in the if statement. All right, let's go ahead and run that. and if you see, nothing happened. Can you guess why? Let's go ahead and run it again. If you see, we're not in it, right? So I want you to figure out why, right? This is a crucial statement which I'm making, right? So I'm going to give this as homework. If you're not able to figure that out, I'm going to help you out. Just ask your question and then I'll answer it. All right, so let's remove that again and go ahead and give a real Boolean expression, right? So now if you remember, we have learned, let's go ahead and get that lesson out, arithmetic operators. So you see, these are operators. So let me just introduce you to another operator. I'm going to call this the equal to operator, right? Then we've also seen something called the equal to operator, right? And it's right here. So that's the operator which is given here. So they're quite different, right? So beginners tend to misplace between this operator and this operator, right? So this operator means something is getting assigned to this variable, right? So let's just demonstrate what happens if I do that. It's gonna give us an instant error, right? Because it just expects you to add one equal to. But on the other hand, if you want to check if two things are equal, you can't use that. You use that only when you want to assign something, and you use this if you want to compare two things. That's precisely what we're going to be doing here, right? So let's check if the name is Rahul, right? Name is equal to Rahul. All right, so what we've essentially done here is we're checking, is the name input Rahul? If it's not, then nothing happens. If it is, it's gonna print this in. All right, let's go ahead and try that out. All right, okay, so you probably figured out what just happened, right? So I'm gonna hit run. All right, so that is just a trick. All right, so we're actually expecting an input here. All right, so there is no sort of thing such as adding a true here does not get in the loop the decision making. It is just a trick. So let me just remove this out and show it to you guys, right? Change that to true, right? So go ahead and run that. As you see, we are in the if statement. All right, that was just a bad trick, I guess. So then change that, then change that back again, right? So I've done that to prove a point that always never leave a line empty without a prompt. All right, so it could be confusing at times. All right, so I did realize that, but then I thought of keeping it as a challenge, right? So as always keep a prompt. Print enter in your name. All right, so that makes more sense now. Enter in your name. Then let me go ahead and hit Rahul, and then it says we are in the if statement. I want to change that to something more meaningful as we're talking about a security system. So let's say welcome back user Rahul, then $name. Right, so after you're done with that, it's going to do this. So let's try entering a different name. All right, let's just say ABC. It's going to do nothing, right? So I've got a challenge for you. It's not really a challenge, it's just a small quiz. So you see I've put small r here, right? What happens if I enter in my name with a capital R? What do you think is going to happen? Do you think it's going to go in or not? Let's see what happens. This time I'm using capital R. Right, let me just run that again. Yep. RAHUL. As you see, nothing happened. That means capital R AHUL is not equal to small r AHUL. So we've come to an important statement that this equation is in fact case sensitive, right? So capital R is not equal to small r. Remember that, guys, right? So now let's say I want to print something to the bad guys who try getting into my system, right? So I just want to tell them kindly leave the system. All right, so how do I do that though? So logically speaking, if something happens, do this, or else do something else. So that brings to the next part of the code, right? So that's how we're going to do that. So you've got if something happens, let this line execute. If this doesn't happen, if the condition is false, go ahead and perform this line, right? So that line is for the bad guys, right? So I'm going to print just say leave my system alone, right? I guess that's going to shoo away our intruders, but anyways, let's go ahead and check that out. Okay, let's say stuff wants to access my system, then it's going to say leave my system alone because he's not the intended user, right? So let's just go ahead and check that for Rahul again, and as you see, it's greeting me by saying welcome back user Rahul, right? So that's kind of a mini security system. It's not going to be effective, but then, you know, just to learn if statements, right guys? So that's it for this video, but then I've got a challenge for you, right? So it's going to be a little complex, but I still want you to try it out, right? So this challenge is going to test your arithmetic skills as well as your logical thinking as well as the decision making, right? So what you've got to do is to make an odd or even program. How that works is you take in an input from the user and then you check whether that number is odd or even. All right, so if it's odd, I want you to print the number is odd, or else print the number is even. Just remove that because that's a little misleading, right? So, you know, if it's not odd, it's obviously even. Okay, so you can interchange this as you wish, right? You could check for whether a number is even, or you could check whether a number is odd, right? So let's see how we're going to do that. So your time starts now. Go ahead and pause this video and give it a shot. I believe you've given it a shot. If you've not done it properly, worry not, because I'm going to show you how to do it. Alright, so let's first analyze this, an odd or even program. So how do I define what is odd and what is not odd? Okay, or rather what's even or what is not even. Alright, so how am I going to define if something is even or not is if it's divisible by 2, right? So one operator that comes to my mind is the mod operator, right? See, for example, I input in 10 mod 2 yields me 0, right? Let's say I input in 11, it yields me 1 because that's odd, and 12 again yields me 0 because that's even, right? So the key here is to understand and use the mod operator. Alright, so we have gone through this operator too, the equal to operator, and then we check whether the remainder is 0 or not. So if it's 0, it's a type even. If it's not, it's odd. Alright, so let's go ahead and implement that. Right, so let's go ahead and take the user's input first. Right, so for that, alright, we've imported it. Great. So let's go ahead and input in a number. Var num1 to num2 is equal to stdin dot readLineSync. For that we are trying to get a type integer. Let's go ahead and type int dot parse and copy this into this. Right, and let's go ahead and continue with our code. Now let's start with our decision making. If statement, if num2 mod 2 is equal to 0, that means this is even, or else it is odd, right? Now let's go ahead and fill that. Print the number is even. Then let's just duplicate that. Alright, let's copy that. So if any one of you wondered how I duplicated it, it's Control D or Command D for Mac. Right, so I'm just obsessed with shortcuts, so mind that. So this number is even or number is odd. Alright, so let me just go through the code once more and try to explain that better. So what you're trying to do in this line is getting the input from the user. So you're reading it in a type string and converting it to an integer. After you're done with that, you're putting it to num2. Right, so I think num2 was totally random. Just go remove that. Alright, just to reduce all the conflicts. And then we check if num2 is divisible by 2. We're getting the remainder. And then we're checking if it's 0. You know, if it's 0, it means there is no remainder, which means it's even. Alright? So, and then you print out even here, if that's the case. If that's not, you know, you're only left with another option, which is, it's got to be odd. It can be neither of them, right? So that's it for this video, guys. So see you in the next one.